Picture someone gripping the steering wheel so hard that their knuckles are white. Not because the road is dangerous, not because the weather is bad, just because letting go, even slightly for a second, feels like the most terrifying thing that they could possibly do. So they hold tighter and tighter and tighter, and they call that being responsible. They call that being prepared. They call it not being naive enough to think that things will just work out on their own. And that's a lot of us. And the wheel we're gripping isn't always a car, it's a relationship, it's a business, it's a timeline, a plan for how our life is supposed to go and when and in what order. We hold it so hard for so long that our hands stop working right. And somewhere in the white knuckling, we stop enjoying the drive entirely. Like we're just trying to keep the car on the road by sheer force of will, while God is in the passenger seat saying, I actually know where we're going. You can ease up. But easing up feels like failing. And for a lot of people, especially those whose lives taught them that loosening your grip meant things fall apart, the idea of surrender doesn't sound like peace. It sounds like chaos. It sounds like being naive. It sounds like giving up. So today I want to talk about what surrender actually is and what it isn't, what it costs you to never do it, and why the control that you've been holding on to so tightly might be the very thing standing between you and the life that God is trying to give you. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Listen Bitch podcast. This is the Rebellion season, and episode 15 of the season 10 Rebellion is going after something that doesn't look like rebellion from the outside at all. It looks like stillness, it looks like open hands, it looks like the kind of trust that makes anxious people deeply uncomfortable because it cannot be controlled, measured, or guaranteed. And for a culture that has turned self-sufficiency into a virtue and control into a personality trait, choosing to surrender is one of the most countercultural things that you can do. If you're new here, I'm Brandon Lynette. God stirred something big in me, and I am so obsessed. Okay. Fun fact: hosting interviews and podcast coaching were top two on the list of things I wouldn't want to do. I ignored it, even though I felt the pull. Okay. Because one, like it's super scary. And two, I have had major imposter syndrome, even with 4 shows totaling over 600 episodes. Okay. And every episode that I'm doing right now, I am falling more in love with podcasting. I started a new show called Listen Bitch Presents Tell Me Why You're Special. And I have met like the greatest people and heard the greatest stories. And I haven't even had the show out a month, I don't think. And the truth is, podcasting, you guys, it's not a hobby. It's not. It's a part of who I am. And then these little God moments happened in my life, like suggestions from friends, like you should coach podcasters or, have more people on your show, do the interviews. And I'm like, nah, that is not for me. And I even had someone tell me, like, send me your referrals then because people are asking me about podcasting because I do it. And he's like, I'll give you a kickback. So I did. And I only did it one time, sent a referral once just to kind of test the waters or whatever. And the kickback never came. And most people would think, ouch. But no, I'm like, thank God. Thank God all of this came to this moment because the seed was planted. I never gave any more referrals, but this is the thing that's been weighing on me is that people still need help. And I was feeling the weight of that. So it's funny, I started this interview podcast, you guys, for exposure. And this is another God moment because every time someone sits in that seat, I'm reminded how much I love talking to people, how much I love hearing their stories. And then I had guests asking me for podcast tips. Okay. I knew this was the niche for me. Okay. Another God moment. Literally, my last 3 guests last week, okay, said they've been podcasting for a very long time, like years. And they said my show was their favorite. So not only am I the best host ever, okay, I'm even the catalyst in helping a few people actually stay podcasting, and I am now the safest place to share your story and start speaking. Like I didn't know what kind of host I would be, but apparently I'm pretty good, okay? And here's the thing. I'm always preaching to you guys on this show about potential and calling and being able to move with the wave of God's plan. And it's time I start practicing that. So I want you guys to pray for my mission, okay? Because I'm shifting gears. And I mean, not that I'm not going to be the mindset coach that I've been, because I think that's just going to absolutely come out in my work, but specifically the podcast coach, because this is a big assignment and someone needs your story. And where better place to do this, where you own your domain, it's your playground, you know podcast coaching for me, right? The message that I have here is so simple. Your mess is your message. That thing you've been through, the thing that you're still in, the thing you thought disqualified you, that's what someone else needs to hear, okay? But yeah, that's where I'm at, you guys. So if you want to get on that show, you want to share your story, get there. I do have the Audacity Lab podcast support group now. I think we're like 10 people strong at the moment. So if you have a podcast, you're thinking about having a podcast, join the group, okay? It is a priority for me to grow that community, because podcasting can feel lonely. And especially now that I've found my voice and my superpower and I know this is where I'm meant to be, I want to help you guys out. So please join the group. It is free to join. Okay. Super free to join. Just want the support so that, everybody knows they're not alone out there. But let's get back to today's regularly scheduled program. This is the tension I want to hold with you today. Radical responsibility and genuine surrender are not opposite. They're partners. You are responsible for your choices, for your character, for your obedience. You are not responsible for the outcome. That is God's job. And trying to do both is why you're so fucking exhausted. That's why you're exhausted. Surrender is not passivity, okay? It's just not. Surrender is not giving up, not checking out, not going limp, and it's not deciding that nothing matters. That is not surrender. All of those things are resignation. And resignation and surrender, I want to make it very clear, they're not the same thing at all. Real surrender looks like this. You do the work, you make the decision, you take the step, and then you release the outcome to God instead of trying to manage, manipulate, or force it into the shape you decided it should take. It's like, a farmer who plants the seed. He waters it, he tends the soil, and then trusts that what comes up is not entirely in his hands. He doesn't dig the seed up every 3 days to check on it. He doesn't stay awake at night trying to will it into growing faster. He does his part and he trusts the process he doesn't control. And guess what, you guys? I grew up in the middle of potato farms. My dad's been a broker my whole life for potatoes. And I mean, San Luis Valley, it's potato country. And I watched this happen in real time. And most of the time, beautiful crops. And that doesn't always mean that the market would be incredible. Or sometimes the weather comes and it's shitty, but maybe the market ends up being great because a lot of people had shitty weather, right? Like there's just so many variables, and it's a matter of they stayed committed to the process. That's it. You just got to do your part with full effort, full integrity, and then you open your hands. And I know if your brain is like mine and it's neurospicy, this is genuinely harder than it sounds. And I want to speak to that directly, because the usual just trust God, right? Like I say it too, but I've worked through it. And sometimes that advice, it landed like a platitude when my brain is literally wired to anticipate, to prepare for, and try to prevent every possible negative outcome. And that's not a faith failure. That is a nervous system doing what nervous systems do, especially ones that learned early that if you don't stay ahead of the threat found you. Your hypervigilance was adaptive once. It kept you safe. The problem is it never got the memo, right? You guys, the danger's past. And then this gets a lot of people. When control is disguised as responsibility. And it kind of sounds like, I just want to be prepared. I'm not controlling, I'm thorough. Someone has to think about these things. If I don't manage this, it won't get done right. How many parents have said that? If I don't do this, it's not going to be done right. And sometimes those things are true. But a lot of the time, what's actually happening is anxiety. And it's like wearing this fancy little blazer and it's calling herself leadership. It's fear. That's all it is. It's fear. It's the need to control outcomes. And you're pretending to be conscientious about this so that it doesn't have to answer for itself. And this is how you tell the difference. Okay. Responsibility takes action and then it moves the fuck on. And control takes the action and then keeps monitoring, adjusting, reviewing, second guessing, and preparing for the 17 ways it could still go wrong. Responsibility, you guys, has a stopping point. Control doesn't. Responsibility can rest, control cannot. Think about the person, okay? And I know y'all have a friend like this who plans family vacation down to 15-minute increments, not because they love planning, but because any gap in the schedule feels like a gap where something could go wrong. The whole trip they're managing instead of just being in the experience. And then they get home and they're fucking exhausted from the vacation they planned because they were working the entire time just in a different location. They have no core memory. They were never engaged with their families. That's it. That's control. And everyone around them felt that too, because there's a huge absence when someone is not engaged or actively involved in what you're experiencing. Or there's the entrepreneur who can't delegate anything because no one will do it exactly right. Or if you're like Brandon Lynette, you're just, you have this really bad hyper independent streak and you're afraid to ask for help. Still working through it. Okay. So they stay like they're bottleneck in their own business. Okay. It wants to grow, but they're stuck working 70 hours a week, wondering why they're not growing while the answer is sitting right in front of them. You have made yourself indispensable in a way that is strangling the thing that you're trying to build. And then there's the anxiety spiral that masquerades as planning. And this one is sneaky because it looks productive. You're thinking your way through scenarios, you're preparing, you're being strategic, but 2 hours in the 14th branch of a decision tree that started with what if this doesn't work, and you haven't actually done anything, you've just exhausted yourself in a future that hasn't happened and may never happen. While the present, again, the actual moment where the actual work could get done, passed you by while you were catastrophizing in your head. Neurospicy brains, bitches, this is us, okay? I feel like this spiral always has a particular texture. It's not always anxious in a very obvious way. Sometimes it looks like hyper focus on the wrong thing, or sometimes it looks like research paralysis, like we're consuming information about the decision instead of just making the decision. And sometimes it looks like being intensely productive on low stakes tasks to avoid the high stakes one that will, actually requires you to trust the outcome. Your brain found a way to feel busy while staying safe, and it's costing you the real work. And this is going to show up in your body as the tension that you can never fully release. Like, the feeling, the shoulders that live like somewhere near your ears and the jaw that's always slightly clenched. And, the sleep that never feels restorative because some part of your brain stayed on patrol through the night. Babe, that's not just stress. That's a nervous system that doesn't know how to go off duty because it was never given permission to. Like, think about that security guard who was hired for a one-night event 20 years ago and he never got told it's over. Like, he's just still walking the perimeter, still checking doors, still reporting for duty every single morning for a job that ended decades ago. That's what chronic hypervigilance looks like in the body. You're still guarding a building that isn't yours anymore in a neighborhood that has changed for a threat that left a long time ago. And y'all, this is going to show up in relationships too, okay? Like the partner you love but can't stop trying to manage. The kids you're raising with one eye always on what could go wrong. Or maybe even the friendships that you hold at arm's length because getting close to them means ceding some control over how you're seen and what happens next. Intimacy requires uncertainty. And real love requires the willingness to not know how things are going to turn out. And for a person whose nervous system treats uncertainty as danger, that is a profound ask. And I'm going to say this, it shows up in your faith in the most painful way because you say you trust God and you mean it. Like you genuinely mean it. But then you behave as though the outcome depends entirely on you getting every variable right. And I am sitting with you right now with a brick in the face with this subject here because what do? I pray and then I immediately start problem solving the same thing I just prayed about. And you guys, my faith is not fake. It's because my nervous system learned a version of the world where God helps those who exhaust themselves first. And that version is a lie packaged up in a pretty little fake Christianity bubble. I don't know. And it shows up in your calling too. Like the person who has been getting ready to launch the thing for 3 years. How many of you incredible humans have told me personally that you want to write the book or you want to start the podcast? I'm just getting ready to launch. How many of you? Because I'm thinking of 4 right now offhand. 2 books, 2 podcasts that at least for the past 3 years I've heard you talk about it. Still don't see it. Every new course, each new piece of research, each new iteration of the plan feels like responsible preparation, but at a certain point, and you know when you've crossed it, preparation becomes the hiding place. Because once you launch, you lose control of what happens next. People might not like it. It might not work the way you planned. And if you never launch, you never have to find out. The control of not starting feels safer than the vulnerability of starting and not being able to manage the outcome. And the trust wound underneath all of this is the real conversation. Because for most people, the reason control feels non-negotiable isn't abstract, it's specific. At some point, you trusted a person, a situation, a plan, maybe God himself, okay? And it didn't go the way you needed it to. And something in you concluded, I cannot afford to let that happen again. So I will manage, I will prepare, I will stay ahead of every possible failure, and I will not be caught off guard. And that wound is real. The disappointment was real. The loss was real. But the conclusion your nervous system drew, that control is the solution, is the part that is updating because control is not actually protection. It is just an illusion. Listen, bitch. Life is not controllable. People are not controllable. Outcomes are not controllable. And every ounce of energy you spend trying to control what cannot be controlled is energy you're stealing from the actual work and the actual relationships and the actual presence that would make your life feel like yours. And what it costs to never fully exhale is everything. It costs you presence because you're always partially somewhere else managing the next thing. And it costs you joy because you cannot be fully in a good moment because part of you is watching for the catch, the shoe to drop. It costs you relationships. People feel managed instead of love. It costs you health. The body cannot sustain permanent alert without breaking down somewhere, and it's going to cost you God because surrender is the primary posture of faith. And if you cannot surrender, you cannot fully receive what faith is designed to give you. And there is some truth here that will change things if you can actually accept this. God is not surprised by your life. He's not surprised by what happened to you. Not by where you are right now, not by the thing that feels like it came out of nowhere. He was not caught off guard. He is not scrambling to fix what broke. He has been present in every chapter, working in what you could not see, moving in what felt like silence. And the invitation, always the invitation is to trust that. Not blindly, not naively, but with the evidence of every time he came through in a way you didn't see coming and couldn't have engineered yourself. The white knuckling, y'all, with that steering wheel, it's exhausting. And you already know it's not working the way you hoped it would. So, what would it look like to try something different? Start with the inventory. Pick one area of your life where you're gripping the hardest. Is it a relationship, a business outcome, a timeline, a decision someone else is making that you keep trying to influence? Write down exactly what you're afraid to happen if you let go. And get specific. Name the actual fear underneath the control. Not that things will go wrong. What specifically? What is the worst case scenario your nervous system is trying to prevent? And then ask yourself honestly, Is staying in control actually preventing that outcome, or is it just giving you the feeling of doing something while the outcome remains uncertain either way? Because most of what we try to control is not actually in our hands, regardless of how hard we grip. The grip is for us, not for the outcome. Then I want you to practice the open hand posture. Like I'm saying literally, physically. And this sounds simple because it is. When you notice the spiral starting, when the anxiety is building, when the what ifs are multiplying, I want you to open your hands physically, palms up, okay? It is a somatic signal to your nervous system that you are not in threat mode, that you're choosing receptivity over protection. And do it with a prayer if you're in that space. I've done what I can do, the rest is yours. And then close the computer, put down the phone, let the moment be what it is without managing it further. And then for my neurospicy babes, okay, build a completion ritual for your decision making. Like your brain needs that clear signal that the planning is done and the execution has begun. Otherwise, it will keep looping back to the planning phase indefinitely. When you've made a decision, write it down, say out loud, this is decided. And physically close whatever you were using to plan it. Create a hard stop. Your brain responds to ritual and structure, so use that to your advantage. You have been working so hard to keep everything together, and I want you to hear this. It's not a character flaw. That is a person who learned that holding on was the only option available. But you have more options now. And one of them is this: you can put it down. Not all of it at once, not perfectly, but you can start practicing the open hand instead of the closed fist. And over time, your nervous system will learn what your theology already knows. You were never holding it up by yourself to begin with. If you felt this episode somewhere inside of you, do the thing. Like the show, subscribe, leave a written review. It takes 3 minutes and it helps the right people find this at exactly the right time. Go to brandonlynette.com, get on the list, okay? Watch the full episode on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. I'm still working on 5,000 subscribers and is it 5,000? Or was it 500? I don't know, but I'm a long ways away and I need your help there. I think it's like 500 maybe. Anyway, and if you're ready to turn your mess into your message and you want to launch the podcast you've been sitting on, or you want to write that book, check the show notes for how to work with me, okay? Tell me your story. Tell me why you're the one who needs to be heard. I want to know what makes you special, okay? Now let go of the wheel a little. God actually knows the way.